All right, it's part 2 on how to sprout. I'm going to show you how to sprout from start to finish lentils, legumes, and seeds. It's a really easy process and it's a great way to grow food organically in your home. You don't need a lot of supplies. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, really, for pennies, you can sprout and have fresh food, fresh living food to eat every single day. Sprouts and our microgreens, things of that nature, are great on your salads, sandwiches, wraps, stir fries. You can really throw them on top of anything. If you're not real big on eating certain vegetables, a lot of people don't like broccoli, but if you can sprout broccoli and eat broccoli sprouts, you'll get 10 times the nutritional value of just eating a normal serving of broccoli versus a handful of broccoli sprouts. So they're very nutritionally dense. All sprouts are packed full of nutrients, just folate, magnesium, vitamin K, vitamin C, and they're in higher amounts than the fully grown versions of the same plant. Also, protein packed. A lot of your lentils. If you have a hard time digesting cooked grains and lentils, or you choose not to consume those types of things, sprouting is a great way to still eat them and incorporate them into your diet. I personally don't eat like a cooked lentil, but my favorite sprout is actually sprouted horse gram. And that's what I've got, some lentil sprouts, or just lentil right here. But horse gram lentils are probably my favorite to sprout. You can pick up most of your seeds and lentils and legumes. You can order them online. Make sure they're organic. If you're fortunate enough to live in like a larger city to where you have markets and places, organic whole food markets available to you, a lot of them will carry especially your grains and legumes that are organic and raw and haven't been processed. You can also order them online. These I've ordered online. I do have an international market here in town where I'm able to pick up some other types of legumes and beans and then that sort of thing. So, all right, so to get started, you need a large jar. And this one is not very large, but it'll work, especially for smaller sprouts like radish, broccoli, alfalfa, small things like that. These are what I normally sprout in most of the time, and these are actually sprouting jars. You do not have to have a sprouting jar. The difference between this is a half-gallon jar, and then this is the lid. It already has a mesh screen in there for drainage, so it is really nice, not necessary. If you just have regular jars or big jars, you can use cheesecloth. This becomes your lid, and a rubber band just to keep it on. So very easy, very simple. Use what you have. You don't have to go out and purchase anything. So what I'm going to do, day one, you decide, okay, I'm going to sprout. So before you go to bed, overnight, or if you do it first thing in the morning, it doesn't matter, but you at least want your to soak your seeds, lentils, and legumes for most of the time 6 to 8 hours, or overnight is fine. Your lentils and beans, legumes, those sort of things, they do take a little longer, so if you let them soak longer than that, it's just fine. And what we're going to do is measure out about 2 tablespoons worth of lentils, legumes, whatever you're going to do. And it doesn't look like much, but this will fill up. This will fill up this whole entire jar once they actually start sprouting. So just a little bit there in the bottom. And then you're going to take, I only use fresh filtered water. And I'm going to take and just fill these up and cover it. About like that. And that's probably a little extra water, which is fine. And then I'm going to put the lid back on. I'm going to give them a good swirl just to make sure they've all got water and they're not clumped up in there together. And then you're just going to take this and set it on your counter, set it in a cabinet, anywhere, and just let them soak, like I said, 6 to 8 hours or overnight. The next morning, you're going to wake up, or after the time's passed, and you're going to drain this water off. Now, I have a lot of house plants, so I don't pour this down the drain. I take the water after they've soaked overnight and pour them onto my plants. So I'll just take the jar, carry it over to a plant, and pour it on there. And then from there, give me 1 second, I'm going to pour this out. So it's been overnight, and I just drain these. You're going to want to rinse them again. And like I said, I always use fresh organic water, or not organic, just fresh clean water. Sorry, not organic, but fresh clean water. Give them a swirl. And again, you're just going to pour it off again. You're just rinsing them really well. Give them a good rinse. And that water I would also pour on my plants as well. Now, I've drained all the water off. What I do is take them and kind of spread them around the jar a little bit. Just give it a good little roll there. And you can either put them on a rack like this, either in your pantry, a kitchen cabinet, somewhere, an empty closet, anywhere it's going to be dark where they're not going to get any light. You don't want light on your sprouts while they're actually sprouting. You can also just use a bowl like this. Just make sure it's a good heavy bowl. These are heavy jars, so if you don't have it balanced in there right, it could very well end up tipping over and breaking your jar. So you don't want that to happen. So either a bowl, nice heavy bowl for the water to drain into, or put them on a drainage rack. Make sure you have a towel or something below it to catch the water. Now, every day, you're going to come and take these, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to rinse them, swirl them, drain the water out. Now, I always use the water for my plants. I also use the water that's in the bowl that's drained out for my plants. Again, that's, you do it if you want to, but it's nutrient dense and it's got a lot of good stuff in there, and my plants seem to do really well. So recycle that water. After about 4 days of doing that, depending on the type of seed, legume, or lentil that you're sprouting, your lentils and legumes will take a little bit longer, but your smaller sprouts like broccoli, radish, alfalfa, and especially any types of grains. The grains usually are much faster. If you do like a quinoa is sprouted in a day, you're done. But so research what you're actually sprouting and how long it's going to take. On average, most things are about 4 to 6 days before you're actually eating them. So you're going to rinse and drain your sprouts. Try to do it 2 to 3 times a day. I'm usually good with twice a day. I usually catch it in the morning and catch it in the evening. I have forgot here and there. I've only had to throw out a jar of sprouts just once or twice because I forgot about them, and they just, when I went to rinse them, this didn't smell good. At any time, if you have a foul smell, and not like an earthy green growing smell, but a foul, like soured bacteria type of smell, you want to go ahead and throw your sprouts out. And another really big thing before you actually get started with your sprouts and getting all your stuff, make sure your hands are clean, make sure your jars are clean, everything that's rinsed really, really good, and just really, really clean, because bacteria can grow very easily in your sprouts. So make sure you're draining them really well, really good drainage on them. You don't want them sitting in water, and you don't want to leave them sitting for longer than like 12 hours without rinsing them, because they will grow bacteria. And once that happens, you've lost them. You just need to throw them out. Because if you do eat them or try to consume them after that, it will make you sick. Now, some sprouts you cannot eat raw. You can't eat, I think it's kidney bean sprouts raw. You would have to cook those first. So again, make sure when you're sprouting, you check to see what's edible raw, which sprouts you have to cook, throw them in like a stir fry. And you may not like raw sprouts. You don't have to eat them raw. You can definitely cook them if that's what you choose to do. So in this smaller jar, I'm just going to do the same thing. But these are radish sprouts, and I'm just going to use about that much. Now, if I was using one of the larger jars, I would go ahead and pour all that in there. But still, same thing. I'm just going to take and fill this up with, cover them with water. And that should be plenty. They're not very big. And then I'm going to take the cheesecloth and cover it. And then do that. In the same way, you're just going to take this, pour it, fill it back up, swirl them, drain it. Now, these will be ready in about 3 to 4 days. And when these are ready, and the tails, they're probably about, I'd say 2 to 3 inches long. On the last day, which is usually the 4th day or the 5th day, you're going to take them and you're going to set them in the sun. You're going to rinse them like you normally would, and then you're going to take them and sit them in the sun like how this is up here. These sprouts that are up here, these are done. Now, these aren't going to turn near as green as some other sprouts are, because for one, I'm not letting them get that far to where they have leaves actually growing on them. But as you can see, when I started these, this jar just was like this, just a little bit in the bottom, and that's how much they've grown. So when I say just make sure, usually like 2 tablespoons, a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, depending on the size and how long you're going to let the tail actually grow, will make a big difference with the size jar and how much you put in there. So keep in mind, these are going to grow, and they do get pretty compact and dense in there. So these are actually done. So when your sprouts are done, what you want to do is either rinse them very well in a colander, if you don't mind the holes in the shells. I don't really mind them so much, so I usually just rinse mine, and I lay out a towel and let them dry. And I'll show you how I do that really quick. You're just going to rinse them. And I do rinse them in a colander. That way I can kind of break them apart and get them out of there. But you're going to rinse them, and you want to be able to get your hand down in there because they will clump up. But after you get them rinsed, you're just going to spread them out on a towel like that. And I let them dry for a little bit, and I'll pat them off. And then what I do is I take other big jars or big glass containers that I already have, and then I put them back I put them in the refrigerator, and then you can eat on them for, I'd say, probably about 4 to 5 days. Obviously, it's like anything else. Open them up and smell them. If they start to smell bad, you will know that they are bad. Don't eat them. I've had sprouts up to a week. Most of the time they don't last that long. I eat them pretty frequently, so usually mine are gone in a few days. So I've actually not had any spoil in the refrigerator, but just check it and make sure they smell fresh. And you're going to have powerhouse packed, nutritionally dense food that's organic, and it's just great for you. So that should get you going on your sprouting. If you have Any other questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I'll also link to the other video I did to kind of help get you started. And there's some more information in there. But do your research. Sprouts are wonderful for you and a great alternative to eating a large amount of vegetables. Great add for a salad, sandwich, stir fries, whatever type of a diet you're following. Yeah, just great for you. So don't be titled, don't be labeled, just come hang out with me and be a human eating plants. Until next time.